Hello and good morning and welcome to the show. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, B-O-L-E-S .tv. 9 a.m. Eastern. It's wonderful to have you with us. Our disco ball light is still lighting up, making us happy with our flashing. I don't think it's too annoying, but if it comes annoying, you can let me know in chat. A lot of interesting things going on in the world today. We're spinning, but are we spinning off course or are we spinning where we belong? I don't know. But we're going to try to figure it out today because that's what we do here. We talk about the human condition. We talk about things that are going on all around us. We talk about injustices. And we try to find ways to set them straight. Sometimes we're successful and sometimes we are not. But having problems is a good thing. A lot of people want a conflict-free life. And those people, I argue, are not living. If you have a lot of problems, that means you're important. That means you have to problem solve. That means you need to find solutions that other people cannot find. So it's those sorts of challenges that meet us unexpectedly every day, that keep us going and keep us moving forward and pressing into the new universe. Or, as Mark Zuckerberg would have it, into the Metaverse. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. Virtual reality is not something new, but this new pressing need for Facebook to push us into this virtual world is odd and consuming in many ways. I'm not sure how it's going to work, let's say for the disabled, how it will become accessible for the deaf and the blind. Because right now, as I understand it, in the narrow world of the metaverse, you have this thing that you wear on your head, and then you have two controllers, one in each hand, that I guess moves you around the virtual world. I don't quite understand it, and I don't know if I want to understand it. But obviously, if you're holding things in your hands, you're not signing to people. And if you're blind, I don't know if they're doing some kind of stimulation where you can hear where you're moving. I don't know. And I've heard rumors that it will be open captioned, which is okay, I guess, if you're speaking, but if you're deaf and you do not speak, then how are people supposed to understand what you're saying to them? I don't know. And the only reason that this metaverse is being pushed is not for fun or because it's the next big thing for people. It's being pushed because it's going to make money. They want to charge you to live in a world that you create so you can escape the one in which you are currently bound. And you already see it. They're selling NFTs that you can put in your metaverse house. Nike is selling shoes that you can add to your metaverse collection and show all of your artificial phony friends online how important you are. And of course, all of these things cost money. Gucci isn't giving you a bag to put in your metaverse for free. They're going to charge you Gucci prices, and you're going to pay it because not everyone can afford a Gucci bag in the metaverse. And this is all very familiar if you remember way back. Second Life. That was kind of a game simulation thing where you go online and you have a second life online. And it was sort of parodied and made fun of in the television show The Office. If you remember the episode where Dwight was some kind of overlord or something, flying in this second life. And the twist was that Jim was also in this second life and was stalking and making fun of Dwight, and then Pam found out that in his second life, his fantasy life, that Jim was a guitar player and had long hair, and she was shocked that that was the life that Jim would choose online without her. So it's already sort of been tried and kind of pooped out. And now they're trying to poop us right back into it via Facebook. And this kind of technological push is where people get left behind. You have to buy the thing, and you have to probably buy a subscription. And there are people of a certain age who will say, I draw the line there. I'm not going into that. I'm staying right here in the real world with the pollution and the sirens and all the ugly gunk that I've come to love. And those are hardcore people who are not going to go into a metaverse under any reason or circumstance. I admit I am sort of feeling like one of those people. And I will be left behind. Just as over the last 20 years, people who I know, and they were of a certain age, an older age, do not know how to use a computer. I like a typewriter. I like paper and pen. I'm not doing email. I'm not having a website. I'm too important. I deal only with newspapers and coverage. Then there was the social media push. Well, if you're not on social media, well, you're not really with it. You're not hip. You're not cool. It used to be AOL. It used to be first CompuServe, then AOL. Then it was Facebook. Oh, then Instagram. Now those are all out, and TikTok is number one. Little fantasy blurps. They get millions of views. For what purpose? I don't really know. And now Facebook itself is old. Kids don't go on Facebook because that's where their parents are, and that's where their grandparents are. And they're all talking as if it's this new fascinating technology. So the kids have moved on, and Facebook knows that, and Facebook is terrified because TikTok is going up and they don't have a TikTok competitor. They're trying to make Instagram into a competitor, but all of the young kids have already left. So this metaverse thing is supposed to be the next neat thing. The cool thing. All the cool kids are doing it. So put on your glasses and put on your fake mitt things and come and interact with me because I'm not really here. Will they use real personas, real names, real life? When I'm online, social media, Reddit, wherever I am, I use my real name. I don't hide behind a fake name. I understand why some people do because they need help. They're hiding from someone. They want to ask an embarrassing question. They don't want to use their real name. And that's fine. But often people don't use their real name is because they want to misbehave and they want to attack people and they want to make fun of people and they don't want to have any ramifications for it in their real life. Well, I try to be the same person online that I am offline, which is a horrible monster. So once you get left behind, how do you get back? And finally people say, oh, I guess I should be on the Twitter. Then they finally join and they say, well, where are all my friends? There's no one here to talk to. Well, they've all moved on. They moved on to TikTok. What's TikTok? I just learned Twitter. Exactly. That's how you get left behind. And some people don't mind being left behind. You go ahead and do the Twitter. I'm going to sit here and work on my website from 1991. And in these virtual worlds, I think it's the decline of imagination, where you used to be able just to sit at home and look out the window and think about things and imagine things and think of how your life might have been in a second life or a third life. And you could read a book, go somewhere else, feel the wind in your face. But when you go into these false worlds, the imagination isn't yours anymore because the world in which you are stepping into is very limited. You can buy this, but you can't buy that. You can't go anywhere you want because the program only lets you go this way. But I want to go this way and that way. I can at home. Well, here you can't. You got to go straight. This is a maze, not a world. So there's always a little bit of disappointment once people say, okay, I'll go into the metaverse and I'll have my new life there where I meet people. And for paranoid people, you kind of think about it and you think, oh gosh, this is the next step is the Matrix, where we're going to be entombed and we're going to have things in the back of our head and wires and pipes, and we're just going to exist in a new virtual womb as they use our bodies for batteries. And they present this false metaverse in our mind that we think we're alive and we're living and we're interacting with people, where we're really just in a pod somewhere, which is what the metaverse is today, really. You're not in a pod, but you're at home in the cell of your bedroom. And here's sort of an interesting take on this metaverse thing, because all technology is not created equal. They're all in competition with each other. Who can be better? Who can be more grotesque, let's say? So here's a take on what Apple is or is not doing with virtual reality and the metaverse. Mark Gurman writes, there's lots of interest in my take on Apple reality and the metaverse. And here's what he said. Do you think Apple's headset will be a full metaverse play, or just focus on core AR and virtual reality? Here's one word I'd be shocked to hear on stage. When Apple announces its headset, see, everyone's going to have these stupid headsets so you can get out of your world. Metaverse. I've been told pretty directly that the idea of a completely virtual world where users can escape to, like they can in Meta platform, Facebook's vision of the future, is off limits from Apple. Executives today at the highest level of the company, and in the past, like Joni Ivey, have pushed for the virtual reality headset not to be an all-day device. Now, that's news to me. I didn't know the metaverse was supposed to be an all-day device. I thought you kind of get on there for an hour, half an hour, see your friends, interact, show off your Gucci bag and your Nike shoes, and then have lunch somewhere down the street. But I guess the idea is you live there. You wake up in the morning, you put on all your metaverse stuff, and I guess you go to work in the metaverse. Work from home, but you're there, in person in the metaverse. Pushed for the virtual reality headset not to be an all-day device, and instead, one that can be used for bursts of gaming, communication, and content consumption. Now, consumption is not free. Consumption usually has a price tag attached to it. The augmented reality headset is Apple's real priority because it can be worn all day and, naturally, not take anyone out of their real environment. Well, I think the whole thing sounds horrible. It's terrifying. That doesn't make me feel better about Apple. They're not protecting us from the metaverse. They're just doing it the Apple way. And what's to stop them? Once they figure out how to tap into our brains, what's to stop them from also having us be in these universes while we sleep? The metaverse and this virtual reality appears to require open eyes. And you close your eyes and you're out of the world. Now that would be interesting. You're in the metaverse walking around, you're getting a little tired, maybe some vertigo, and you stop and you close your eyes. And what do you see? I guess just darkness. What does that do to you in the world of the metaverse? Are you dead? Does it make you look like you're taking a nap? Does it just immobilize you? And what are people around you seeing when you close your eyes? Oh, he's sleeping standing up with his hand in his Gucci bag while he's putting on his Nike shoes and showing off his NFT collection. So that's my take on this metaverse, this virtual reality that is coming for us, if we like it or not. Can we escape it? Will there be ethics? Will there be crime in the metaverse? Is it possible for you to kill someone in the metaverse and be held criminally responsible in the world of the metaverse? Can you escape a prison of the metaverse? Are you the same person in the metaverse that you are in the real world? In the real world, I'm free. I can go down the street. But in the metaverse, I'm doing 20 years to life. Thank you for the follow. Mao5. I don't think this metaverse thing, virtual reality thing, is something that we really want to mess around with. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, as the old folks say. Because once you get into it, how the heck do you get out of it? Well, they don't want us to get out of it. They want us in there so they can control us and know what we're thinking and know what our dreams and our desires are and know how to put us to work. Because it's going to start off fun, and then the business people are going to come in and say, well, if you're going to play pool in the meta universe, you could also sit at this desk I have and answer a few emails. Wouldn't that be really fun? So you could have a second job, I guess, in the metaverse. And do you have children and pets and dogs that are real, or are they just virtual? Can you divorce your family and go into the metaverse on your own, even though your family is also online? Our new friend, Mao, says the metaverse is something I will be stuck in for life. You will not take me hostage. Well, we talked about DNA sniffing yesterday, where the technology is there where they can put a sniffer in the world and record your DNA and put you in a database. And I'm waiting for the day for the crossover from your sniffed DNA in the real world to be imported into the metaverse so we can track you virtually and non-virtually all day long to know what you're thinking and where you're feeling. And how far away are we from thought crimes going on in the metaverse? Well, in the metaverse, you killed 3 people. And it's suspiciously similar to 3 people who died in West Virginia. Can we make the connection? Are they the same? Can we blame other people for crimes you did not commit? Sniff the DNA and make it real. So that's my take on the metaverse. I thank you so much for this conversation. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share about virtual reality or where we're going in this gigantic mess, if you don't mind being left behind, let me know. Email me, david@boles.tv. Now we move on to news of the real world. Direct from the CDC, the COVID data tracker. And we're not going to talk about this very long, but it's very interesting to look at this chart. It was interesting to look at that chart. I guess I clicked on something. Whoops. Everything's an image. Okay. So in mid-December, Omicron was supposed to be 100% of all of the new COVID cases. And as of right now, we're hovering at about 98%. The scientists think it's probably because this was taken at the first of the year, they think that by now it's 100% Omicron. So that means Delta's kind of gone and we're now living with Omicron. And while people say it's not as deadly as Delta, it's more infectious because more people are in the hospitals now than there were a year ago. So the purple in this chart that you're looking at, that's the rise of Omicron in America. Whoops, I don't know why that keeps changing. We're very close. It's coming for us. I don't know if we can escape it. Now, speaking of these horrible virtual reality worlds, right here in the real world, we have Norton that used to be really respected. 20 years ago, when I was coming up in the computer world, Peter Norton was a real person. He had a real product, and it was delightful and necessary and safe. And then, of course, big business takes over, and Peter Norton is out, but Norton lives and gets sold and resold and compacted. And now Norton 360, which is a very popular Krebs on security. If you're not following Krebs on security, you should. He's wonderfully writes very long, in-depth articles. I'll put the link in chat. And he has a very long article about how Norton is basically killing all of the goodwill that they've had so far. And they're relying on people who are left behind, old people who are not paying attention, who just renew their subscription every year without paying attention, and who don't know not to crypto mine using their computers. So what they do is you install the new version of Norton 360, and it basically takes over your computer and starts mining Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum, whatever it is, it's mining for you in the background. So they are using Norton, using your local computer to mine cryptocurrency for them that they pretend they're giving back to you. But there are fees and processing that they then charge your account. And people don't know what's happening. And this is the story. This is effing wild. Norton Antivirus now sneakily installs crypto mining software on your computer and then skims a commission. Now, it would be different if they would open this thing and say, hey, we want to make you a little extra money, and maybe we have a little processing fee for you if you're interested, but you could make, a few bucks just by leaving your computer on and letting it run all day and night. But they don't do that. They're very sneaky about it. This is what it looks like. So you have your own wallet, right? So you've earned $12 and you want to withdraw it, and then you try to withdraw it, and then Norton says, well, you don't have enough money to withdraw because we have fees we haven't associated. So is this about you making money on the internet, or is this about Norton making money off of you on the internet? Well, they do make money off of you by providing antivirus. And it's too bad because people seem to like their antivirus, and they've been around for years. Peter Norton had a great reputation at one time. And this article just goes on and on and on. It's quite wonderful. And this is Krebs's take. I guess what bothers me most about Norton Crypto is that it will be introducing millions of perhaps less savvy internet users to the world of cryptocurrency. And we talked about that being left behind. People don't want to do email. People don't want to do social media. Then they decide they do, but it's too late. They've already been left behind. They're using old technology. Less savvy internet users to the world of cryptocurrency, which comes with its own set of unique security and privacy challenges, and require users to level up their personal security practices in fairly significant ways. Several of my elder family members and closest friends are longtime Norton users who renew their subscription year after year, despite my reminding them that it's way cheaper to just purchase it again each year as a new user using a different email address. None of them are particularly interested in or experts at securing their computers and digital lives, and the thought of them opening Coinbase accounts, a crypto wallet banking account basically, and navigating in that space is terrifying. Big Yellow, that's Norton, is not the only brand that's cashing in on investor fervor over cryptocurrencies and hoping to appeal to a broader, or maybe just older, audience. The venerable electronics retailer Radio Shack, which relaunched in 2020 as an online-focused brand, now says it plans to chart a future as a cryptocurrency exchange. Oh boy. And are they going to tell anybody, or is it just going to be a big joke? Well, I think we know the answer to that. Well, it's been ranting so far, but we're not done yet. But it is time for our brief blood pressure break of the morning. I will see you again momentarily. Be right back. We are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv. Why are you spelling it out? Well, I spell it out for our closed captioning friends. Jana Marie, who you may know is my wife, who is deaf, and has her own show on Saturdays and Sundays here at 11 a.m., where she talks about deafness and disability. And it's all in ASL, but she types. So if you read the chat and the words that she's typing to teach you, you can say, oh, she's talking about this, she's talking about that, and you get it. And she answers questions about disability and employment. And on Fridays, around 10:15, she's here and provides official, hardcore ASL lessons. And this Friday at 10:15, she will be talking about vegetables, the signs and ramifications of eating healthy. And on some days, maybe holidays, maybe on her days off, we're in negotiation to see if she will make a special guest appearance right here on the regular show, just for 5 or 10 minutes, to say hello, to do something funky, to change things up a bit. It's still being negotiated between the Putin and the Biden of Boles.tv. We're hoping for a good resolution under the guise of accessibility and participation and inclusion. Well, as we went on break, I noticed that our new friend, Mal5Cube version 3, is hosting our stream for one viewer. Now, we are new to Twitch. We've only been here about 2 months. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds wonderful. I don't know if that's a raid. I don't know if that's a host. I don't know what it means. But I think it's a good thing. Thank you, yes. It's wonderful. It's the first time we've made history here, with a new friend who just joined us. Now that's wonderful. And we were talking about getting left behind before, when new technology comes out. And I want to say right now to our friends, especially if you're a little bit old, or if you're young and you're going to get old, and old like me, I am 56 years old. And I remember back in the early days, 1991, 95, 96, 94, when email was just starting. Oh, our friend is talking to us again. A host is when your channel will show up on mine for my followers to see, while a raid will send my followers directly to your stream. Fascinating. So are you saying that when I'm broadcasting and you're not broadcasting, we're on your channel? I know what a raid is because I watch Hikaru Nakamura all day, every day, and I know when he raids people with 10,000 viewers that people go crazy. But this is not a raid, this is a host. But I know he does use hosting somehow because when he's gone, other people host his show on his channel. I'm feeling a little left behind. That's why you have other people, younger people perhaps, who explain things to you. I love pinning my messages, by the way. This is something new I've discovered. You are correct. Only when I'm not live, people will see your channel online. Well, that's fascinating. I had no idea. That's wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much. So if you are old, or if you anticipate getting older in the world, there are always new things that are happening. I have an aversion to the idea of the metaverse. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try it. And in 1993-95, when email was coming out, that was a new way to talk to people. Faster. And it didn't have to be in real time. I could email somebody, they can email me back when they're ready to talk to me. And so many peers my age at that time said, oh, I don't do email. Call me on the phone. Leave me a message. Right? Not a voicemail message, an answering machine message, like on the cassette recorder with the machine at home. But you don't answer your answering machine. No, I screen all my calls. And so there was a period where people would call me and say, hello, 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 are you there? Pick up, pick up, pick up, pick up. And those people, when voicemail came to be, with the rise of the cellular telephone, would call you and say on your voicemail, not your answering machine, hello, 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 are you there? Pick up. Are you screening your calls? Pick up, it's me. Well, you can't screen a call on a cell phone. It goes directly to voicemail, as people know now. But there is a great aversion to something new and something changing, and people get very upset when new technology comes. They said, well, I just mastered the typewriter. I just figured out when I go like this 2 times it double spaces. I don't know how to double space in this new fancy Word Perfect program. I don't know how to do it. I won't do it. And that's how people get left behind. Okay, you don't want to email me? Okay. I'll talk to you later. I'll email my new young friends over here who are very interested in talking to me in email. So you have to force yourself to try new things and not wait a year or 2 to try it. You just have to say, okay, well, this is something interesting. Snapchat was big for a while, right? All the kids went over there and all the old people were like, I'm not leaving Facebook. And maybe Snapchat's done, I don't know. I guess TikTok has taken over the world. So now we move into the next interesting part of the show, which people find distressing. And we've talked about this in the past. Oh, our new friend. I'm fascinated by how far technology has come, and now the metaverse. This could be intriguing yet terrifying. I as well will give it a shot. Once the companies step in, I am out. Now that is very interesting, because I wonder how much this is going to cost all of us just to get in there and look around. I have not tried any of the virtual reality stuff yet. I'm very interested in it, but I don't understand enough about it, and I'm not sure I want to go into the Facebook world. Now, we are on Facebook. We have a very nice, big Facebook business page, BOLES, facebook.com/BOLES. But I'm not sure I want them knowing my innermost fantasies in the metaverse. Do I trust Apple? A little bit more, yes. But I'm not sure if I should. But who else? Google? We're all Google in this house. We are Apple and we are Google. Although we did use OneDrive this morning to help my wife, and that worked pretty well. If you have a Windows machine, OneDrive, SharePoint, whatever they call it for business, is very slick. Google is not as slick as Word integration with OneDrive, I admit that. And Outlook is much prettier to use than Gmail. But we've been Gmail from the beginning, and Google Workspace, and all of our Apple stuff. So I don't know if I would trust Google either, because they have this terrible history of inventing things and then dropping them. Whereas Apple sort of invents something and tries to stick with it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this virtual reality thing steps in. And I agree that once the businesses are already in the metaverse. That's what's driving all of this towards the metaverse. Are these businesses who want you to buy things in their virtual world? I guess to show off. We used to go into these games and buy coins or buy bits like we do on Twitch to celebrate. Well, you go into the metaverse, you can't go in there without your clothes on. You got to show off your bling. And that's going to cost you real money or crypto money. Maybe you can use your Norton 360 account to pay for your metaverse cars and your virtual Tesla that you cannot afford in real life, but in the metaverse you can have 3. It's all very scary. So we talk a lot about the Americans with Disabilities Act and access, and how there are companies and people who do not want to comply with the ADA, And because there is now a law that lawyers and people can go and force people to comply. Oh my gosh. I love the cheering. Thank you so much for the 10 bits. Welcome to the Boles.tv Metaverse, hosted on Twitch, and now hosted by our new friend. I love the bits. And we talked about the people who get in trouble with the bits. As a money laundering scheme in Turkey, where they go to streamers and they say, look, we're gonna cheer 100,000 bits. And you keep 30% of that cheer and you send the rest of it to us. And they get away with it because it's all stolen credit cards. And then 2 years later, Twitch comes back to the streamer and says, well, you know what? These people cheered 1 million times in your stream, and you didn't find that odd? You didn't want to report that to us? Let us know. And by the way, you owe us $50,000. Twitch enjoys the bling of Twitch bits. Love this. Love the cheer. Will it let me pin this? I don't think I can. Yay. Twitch bits. It's amazing what goes on under Twitch. I agree with that. It's very interesting. It's an interesting ecology. And they'll let anyone and everyone become an affiliate. But if you want to become a partner, it's very, very different. It's a different world. Oh, a theory. I love theories. What is your theory? And as our friend is typing. So there were 40 people who were arrested in Turkey for this Twitch bits scam that has now played out in America. Oh, here we go with a nice long conversation. I'm going to try to pin this and see if the whole thing will pin or only part of it. We may need to make it bigger. Oh, it doesn't go bigger. So that's the size it is. Okay, so at the beginning of the 21st century, when Twitch Corporation had become the largest commercial entity in the world, 9 out of 10 houses contained its products. Its political and financial influence felt everywhere. Unknown even to its own employees, it was bought out by Amazon, and its massive profits are generated by gifted subs. Now that is very interesting and right on target. Very interesting. And I did not really know Twitch. I was late to the party, left behind. I did not know that Twitch was that successful by themselves. And it's really unfortunate. Oh, more cheering with the 90 bits. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I don't know why they sold out to Amazon. And my big complaint, and I've discussed this many times here, is Amazon has a lot of money, and they cannot provide real-time and video-on-demand closed captionings for streamers. YouTube does. Facebook does provide captions and video-on-demand captioning automatically. You don't even have to ask for it. They just do it, and you can turn them on or turn them off. It's there, period. But with this, on Twitch, and if you're an affiliate, you're stuck on Twitch. You can't go to other places in real time. They will not caption. And you ask them to caption, you go into their user voice place, 2,000 requests for captioning. They will not do it. I don't know why. Because it's Amazon. They have a lot of money. They could write this off and do whatever they want to do. But they're not into it. So you have to find kludgy workarounds. And we're very lucky that our friend Eric Guzman, our new friend, has streamed closed captions available. And they're for the live stream only. He does it as a service to the community, which we really appreciate for our deaf and hard of hearing friends and other people who like to see what's being said if they're learning English. but it's not automatically saved to video on demand. So the captions are just for the live stream only, which is unfortunate. And Amazon could fix that with a snap of their fingers and have the technology ready. Because for the official Twitch videos and the official Twitch company product stream, all that's closed captioned. We can have the captioning, they say, but not everyone can. We even asked, hey, we're a new affiliate. Could we be included in a beta test for closed captioning? Because certainly you're at least beta testing it to see if it's popular. No reply. Twitch has a lot going on under what might people think. Yeah, that's a good point too. A lot of things going on. And it's going to be very difficult for these streamers who over the years have been caught by these theft scams to find a way out and say, well, yeah, I got paid $50,000, but I don't have it. I can't pay it back. And so Twitch will say, fine, we'll just keep taking your money or we'll sue you for the money. And they're right to do it because it's stolen money and there's no thing that you can say that protects you from thinking that a small streamer would get $50,000 from people cheering with bits from these strange accounts that they don't interact with. And from the criminal point of view, it's genius. They steal these credit cards. They buy bits on Twitch. They make deals behind the scenes with the streamers to do a split. And the streamer gets paid, and then the nefarious people get paid under the table by the streamer. So it's all easy to find and easy to record and discover if you know where to look. And if it's too good to be true, it's not going to be true. That I know as an old person. So Janet Marie is disabled and she has used the ADA to try to enhance her life and the life of her consumers. It's a remarkable business. It really is. It's fascinating. And it doesn't have to be that way. They could be open and generous, but this is Amazon we're talking about. They seem to have a different philosophy of life and interacting with people and taking care of their consumers and their workers. It's a little bit disappointing and a little bit dangerous. So one way to enforce companies and people to follow the ADA is, unfortunately, you can ask them nicely and they won't do it. You can make them aware of the disability and they can either comply or not. And so there are some people, many of them are lawyers, but some of them are everyday people who just go around suing people in order to get them to comply with the ADA. And some of them are disabled, and the story I'm going to share with this guy, Johnson, has tax problems. But he is out in California going around suing companies that are not complying with the ADA. And people are upset about it and mad. And that's very interesting. As the lawsuit against Panda Dumpling, it's a dumpling place in California, open for 20 years, Johnson, the guy who's suing everybody, claims he went to the business in March and May of 2021 with the intention to avail himself of its goods and services and to see if businesses complies with disability access laws. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that because he is disabled. Johnson said in his lawsuit that Panda Dumpling's counters were too high, there were no grab bars in the toilet stall, and he was unable to get his wheelchair to fit under a table. Now, those are all basic tenets of the ADA. So if a business or a company decides we're not going to comply with the rules, then they are opening themselves to being sued. And for people making money off of their business decision not to make their establishment accessible. Other businesses on the same street are hurting because of these lawsuits. One person whose parents owned Big Lou's Liquors said his heart sank when he heard about Johnson's lawsuit against their shop. The liquor store had to install a shorter counter and move a large cabinet with wine in it in order to make it accessible to those in wheelchairs. Now, does that sound like a horrible thing you would want someone to do, or does that sound like a wonderful thing that they should just do on their own? And sometimes it takes a big a-hole who wants to go around and sue people for money and win judgments to get people to do the right thing. That's why the law is there. Amy Buckmaster, Redwood City, San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce CEO, said her group and other chambers of commerce have been monitoring the lawsuits filed against local businesses and have referred business owners to local attorneys. Panda Dumpling, which is closing because it refuses to comply, is far from the only restaurant in the peninsula to shut down due to one of Johnson's lawsuits. In April 2019, Jason Kwan had to shut down Jason's Cafe in Menlo Park after he was hit with 3 ADA lawsuits, one of them being from Johnson. Now, most people read that and say it's outrageous. And I have a tendency to say, okay, sometimes you can't pick your warriors, but sometimes you need to revel in the victory. Because without this guy out there suing people to make them do the right thing that they are required to do anyway under the law, nothing would be done. And these businesses are just saying it's too expensive. I can't spend $8,000 in my remodel to make my bathroom handicapped accessible. So those people are saying to us and the rest of the world, I don't care about people in wheelchairs. I don't care about elderly people. I don't care about complying with the law of the land, which is the ADA. And it's very disappointing. But if not for the law, if not for the lawsuits, how do you force these people to comply? How do you make someone do the right thing? You can threaten them, you can ask them nicely, but if they say no, what do you have left? Well, in the case of the ADA, the only thing you have left is to take them to court. Our new friend says, I assume the big companies down to the workers don't like it because it puts a bad impression on the company. While I say it's good people are doing this, you wouldn't have to be sued if you did the correct action in the first place. It's frankly outrageous. It is absolutely outrageous, and you are absolutely and completely right. And it's not just that. As my lovely wife Janice says, over the past 20 years, the ADA used to be this way, going up and pushing the world forward, and now it's kind of going backward. Even in, what is considered fluent in ASL? What makes a person right to be an interpreter? You have students who finish level 4 of ASL, which is just really basic understanding, and they believe that they can go out into the world and work as a professional interpreter. And when you tell them, no, you are not qualified to be a professional interpreter, they're shocked. What do you mean? I took 2 years of ASL. I paid for it. It's part of my transcript. Well, if you were involved with the deaf community, and if you were really studying the language, you'd know how much you don't know. You don't know anything. You can maybe tell a story, but that's not receptive skills. That's not experience. That's not cultural identification. All of that's a part of it. So you go into an interpreting program, intensive, and that's all you do is interpret for a year, 2, 3 years, and then you become certified, and then you're a reliable interpreter. But that doesn't mean that people who don't know anything about ASL are not impressed. Well, we get a lot of requests where this person needs an interpreter, so do you have any students that could come and interpret for us? We don't want to pay a real interpreter because they're too expensive. But the student doesn't know anything. The student's not qualified. That doesn't matter. We just need to look good that we have an interpreter. Businesses. Someone knows the alphabet in American Sign Language. Oh, they're fluent. They can deal with consumers and work the front desk. But they don't have any fluency. They don't. I didn't say they were fluent. I said they could communicate in ASL. No, they can't. I'll run an ASL program. And I won't have any deaf people or anybody who's fluent administering the program. Well, how do you deal with grade appeals? How do you deal with curriculum issues? How do you deal with determining if the instructors are teaching the right thing? When I was 5, my best friend was deaf. That's your verification? That's your reasoning for not having any expert? Any person who's fluent in the language involved in the decision-making of a program? It's COVID. We have to save money. It sounds ridiculous and outrageous, and it absolutely is. And it's absolutely 100% true in what's happening right now as we speak. And with that, my friend, because of medication and old age, it's time for a blood pressure break, which you know what that means. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be back very briefly. We are once again back from break. Thank you for being here. I'm David Boles. This is Boles TV, live streaming video, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Boles.tv. And on the weekends, 11 a.m., Jana Marie is here with you, talking about hardcore ASL and disability and employment services. And speaking about the ADA, it's the big companies, the big massive companies, are very compliant because they have been burned very early in the life of the ADA, and they pay out a lot of money because lawyers go after them and they win million-dollar judgments. So they've learned. You know, you ask for an interpreter at a major company and they're going to comply immediately. You mention the words reasonable accommodation and they're going to comply immediately because they know what happens if they don't. It's the small businesses that are now ripe for the picking for these regular people who want to go out and make a little extra money by suing them for compliance. And several years ago, the easiest thing to get them on was the lack of handicap parking, which is required under the ADA for businesses of a certain size. And these businesses did not want to just put up a sign and paint a little square with a handicapped indicator, and they're compliant. And they wouldn't do it. And so people sued them and won in court. And now you see them pretty much everywhere. People are compliant because they've learned their lesson. It cost them a lot of money. And even I'm watching the old show Parking Wars on A&E from 5-10 years ago. The most delicious thing, and the thing that the ticketers liked the most, was writing a handicapped parking violation. Parking in a handicapped stall without the proper credentials. And I think in Philadelphia, the fine for parking in a handicapped spot without the right verification was $750. That's the ticket. And people were outraged. I limp, I hurt my toe. And it was a learning session for them with the ticketer saying, look, you have to have the hang tag, you have to have the special license plate, you have to be approved to park there. And you are not allowed to park there because you are not disabled. And it would be big outrage and they'd be all upset. So that's how these things trickle down. So it's not the businesses that then gets hit because they are compliant with their parking space. It's the customer who comes in and parks in the parking space because they don't have the right to park there. And they know better than to park there. So they pay the city. So it's all about compliance and trying to get people to do the right thing. And it can be a very difficult thing because people often don't want to do the right thing unless they're forced into it. And one thing that's going right, as you may know, Jan and I are vegans. We talk about that a lot here. Here's a wonderful story from our friends at Veg News. I'll put the link in chat so you can go read this later. And this is a very simple, lovely guide on how to eat vegan at Taco Bell. Now, you'd think if you just ordered from their veggie menu that you're vegan, but they put a lot of cheese and a lot of sour cream in almost everything they do, so you have to special order it. But that's the new thing today with these apps. You can go in and take things out and put things in. So this is the ultimate guide to ordering vegan at Taco Bell. Fresco style. That is the key phrase. Fresco style is what you want. It's the kind of sauce that you want. It's the code, as they say. It's the code to make it vegan, which I love. Right there, you say, I want it Fresco style, and Taco Bell knows, oh no, you're one of those. Virtually any item can be ordered Fresco style, and the employees know how to replace all the animal ingredients with tomatoes. That being said, there are some foods that probably aren't very appealing when ordered only Fresco style. A Fresco style quesadilla is just a folded tortilla with red fruit. No cheese. Some other things, nacho fries. The crispy potatoes are a fabulous option to spruce up any menu. The potatoes are delicious, they are vegan, and for a while, Taco Bell took them off the menu. And I understand why during the pandemic, because the potatoes take a long time to cook to get them crispy like that. But for vegans, that was the straight replacement. If you didn't want meat, you said replace it with potatoes. And it was delicious. Nacho fries is another way to get your spud fix. When ordered without the cheese sauce, these Mexican spiced French fries are vegan. Cinnamon twists for dessert. No shame if you order more than one bag. These crispy, light-as-air snacks are slightly reminiscent of churros and cinnamon toast crunch. So the cinnamon twists are vegan. The hot sauce is vegan. The black bean crunch wrap supreme is also vegan. Taco Bell managed to invent a food item even more popular than the burrito, the crunch wrap supreme. Order it without the sour cream and nacho cheese sauce, and you're left with a hot, freshly pressed, soft tortilla filled with black beans, salsa, lettuce, and crunchy tortilla shell. Ask for a side of guacamole for dipping. I agree. Absolutely delicious. Our new friend says, cinnamon twist sounds good. I've had them before. They're surprisingly delicious. The black bean chalupa. These fried flour-based shell is thicker than a crunchy taco and arguably more delicious. Ask for this fresco style, and you'll get a crunchy chalupa filled with black beans, tomatoes, and lettuce. A loaded nacho taco. Score! This is on the value meal. Ask for it fresco style and swap the beef with black beans or potatoes. You receive a flour tortilla loaded with beans, lettuce, crunchy red strips, Fritos, and tomatoes. Splurge a little and add some guacamole, diced onions, and sliced jalapenos. Oh, that sounds delicious. Soft and crunchy tacos replace the beef with either black or refried beans or potatoes. And ask for fresco style on the soft, crunchy supreme, and your handhold will be vegan friendly. The bean burrito, that's the one that we know and have always loved. The bean burrito isn't vegan as is because it contains cheese. Well, we know that. Just order it fresco style and you're in with a warm flour tortilla wrapped around refried beans. The veggie bowl, skip the cheese and ranch and you're golden as a vegan. Beans and rice. Taco Bell's bowl of black beans and rice is certified vegan, and I can tell you that is delicious, and I wish they made a giant size. Oh, and you're welcome for the link, my new friend. Potatoes. I'm being silly with tomato potatoes because I'm being fancy. I'm from Nebraska, so we don't pronounce it that way. But we do in New York. As of March 11, 2021, the potatoes are back. See, they've been out. Add these to any order to amp up the starchy satisfaction. And they're very delicious. Vegan meat is still to come. Yeah, they're having trouble with the vegan meat for some reason. Chipotle has 2 vegan meats, the sofritas and their new chorizo. Taco Bell's having trouble. I don't know why. They've tested meatless options that are vegetarian, veggie-curious, and even meat lovers will love. But we hope that they will figure out a way to get some kind of vegan meat in there. And I also wish that on their menu in the app they would just have one little section that says order fresco. And everything in there is fresco style, vegan friendly. Because as it is now, you go to the veggie menu and then you have to go ahead and say, take this out, put that in, take this out. It takes a little time, but at least it's available. They're making an effort. Or yesterday we talked about DNA sniffing and zoo animals and how it's absolutely coming to sniff us later, and it'll be done under the guise of military and police protection. Well, we have to know if you weren't there, if our DNA sniffer didn't sniff you, then you're innocent. But if you happen to be in the park at the time of the murder, we're going to have to investigate you. So now they're using DNA as an antenna to find out more about you. Inspired by the Lego-like properties of DNA, with building blocks that are typically 20,000 times smaller than a human hair. We have created a DNA-based fluorescent nano antenna that can help characterize the function of proteins. Like a two-way radio that can both receive and transmit radio waves, the fluorescent nano antenna receives light in one color or wavelength, and depending on the protein movement it senses, then transmits light back to another color which we can detect. One of the main innovations of these nano antennae is that the receiver part of the antenna is also employed to sense the molecular surface of the protein studied via molecular interaction. This is all very complicated, but that's okay. We'll figure it out together. One of the main advantages of using DNA to engineer these nano antennas is that DNA chemistry is relatively simple and programmable. The DNA-based nano antennas can be synthesized with different lengths and flexibilities to optimize their function. One can easily attach a fluorescent molecule to the DNA and then attach its fluorescent nanoantenna to a biological nanomachine, such as an enzyme. And they go on to explain, by carefully tuning the nanoantenna design, we have created 5 nanometer long antenna that produces a distinct signal when the protein is performing its biological function. So these fluorescent nanoantennas open many exciting avenues in biochem and nanotechnology. For example, we were able to detect in real time, for the first time, the function of the enzyme alkaline phosphate with a variety of biological molecules and drugs. This enzyme has been implicated in many diseases, including various cancers and intestinal inflammation. So what these antennae can do when you turn them on is they can tell you what's happening deep in your body on the level of DNA. So if someone is sick or someone is ill, you can find out exactly where the problems are in the DNA by turning on this antenna. And then you add some medication or some sort of therapy and turn on the antenna and see if there are appropriate changes being made where the DNA is being healed on a functional level. I don't know if you're a ProPublica fan, but if you are, you can donate to them. And I don't have any relationship with them. I don't get any money. But I saw that this is very interesting because they write very deep, troubling articles. And you can republish them yourself on your own website, on your own page. You just have to give them credit as the publisher of origin. But what they're looking for are local reporting for ProPublica. So if you happen to be a writer, or if you're interested and you work for a small newspaper, you can become a writer for ProPublica. And these are some of the news organizations that they deal with. And here's the kicker. ProPublica will pay the salary up to $75,000, plus an allowance for health benefits for each full-time reporter. Local reporters work from and report to their home newsrooms. So if you're in a small town, you report to your people, yet you receive extensive support and guidance for their work from ProPublica, including collaboration with senior editors and access to ProPublica's expertise with data, research, and engagement. The work will be published or broadcast by your newsroom and also simultaneously by ProPublica, and then by the rest of the world who chooses to republish ProPublica. So what they're doing is taking control of the news out of the hands of the big publishers like the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC or the Washington Post, and putting the power in the hands of the smaller publications who are doing the intimate work on the ground. Because if you want to know what's going on in a small town in the Midwest, economically, politically, you don't go to the New York Times and ask them to find out. They might make a phone call or maybe send someone there to investigate for a day and a half. But if you want to know what's really happening on the ground, you need someone from the community who knows the people, who is embedded, that the local community trusts to tell the truth. And they write these truths, and some of them are not good, and then they work with, in this case, ProPublica, who will help them do data research or other information gathering. And then, if ProPublica likes the work, they publish it on theirs. So it goes from the small community reality to the larger truth, and then it becomes repurposed and reprogrammed under the umbrella of the ProPublica publication. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Now, as we deal with information gathering and ownership of history and where we have come as a people, as a nation, as gatherings in the world, we have to realize that power and construction of what we know have not always been fairly decided. They've always been decided by usually the person who has the biggest gun or the largest wallet. And there have been many antiquities throughout history where statues have been stolen from one country and put in another country, and where paintings in World War II that were stolen from Jewish people in Germany and taken by the Third Reich and resold to other people for profit. The families of those dead Jewish owners of that artwork are now going to court and suing and saying, that is my father's painting. That Matisse belonged to my dad. And yes, it's worth $300 million today, and our family wants it back. So there's a record that ownership maybe is not always 9/10 of the law. Maybe the original owner, the original consumer, is the one that it really belongs to. And now this has kind of trickled down to who owns the fossil record. Does the fossil record that you find in Egypt, does it belong to the person who discovers the fossil? Or does it belong to the country in which the fossil is buried? Well, they're trying to figure it out. In a study published in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution, the researchers investigated the influence and extent of biases within the paleobiology database located at paleobiodb.org, a vast, widely used, and publicly accessible database resource which forms the cornerstone of analytical studies in the field of fossils. So who owns the information is just as important as who puts the information in there to be discovered. And what they found was significant bias in areas such as knowledge production, with researchers in high or upper middle income countries contributing to 90% of fossil data. And that means, thank you for the follow. Psycho Beta beat down. And so that means that wealthy countries, primarily located in the global north, control the majority of paleontological research power. Really fascinating. You think whoever discovers it puts it in a database, great. But you're putting it in a database in a certain place with a certain intention that is not always necessarily pure and unbiased. In addition, the team found the top countries contributing to paleontological research carried out disappropriate amount of work abroad, more than half of which did not involve any local researchers based in the country where the fossils are being collected. There are many famous examples of colonial, political, and economic biases across the natural sciences and humanities. During the 19th century, specimens uncovered following exploratory expeditions were shipped back to respective imperial capitals to be housed in museums, where many are still used for scientific research today. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Tutankhamun or mummies. This is bones, fossil record. Perhaps foremost among these are the Parthenon sculptures, sometimes called the Elgin marbles, which the Greek government has repeatedly requested to be returned since they were taken from Athens in the early 19th century. So in that case, the people go, oh, look what I discovered in Greece. It's part of the fossil record, so I'm going to take it home for my use in my country. We are familiar, for example, with scientific colonialism, or parachute science, in which researchers, generally from higher income countries, because they can afford to do the research and pay for people to travel and live, drop in to other countries, usually poorer countries, without enforcement or observation, to conduct research, and then leave without any engagement with local communities and local expertise. But this issue goes farther than that. The expertise of local researchers is devalued, and laws are often violated, hindering domestic scientific development and leading to mistrust between researchers. The first step towards conducting research that is more equitable and ethical, argue the researchers, is to address the power relations driving the production of scientific research. This means properly involving and acknowledging local expertise. And this reminds me a lot of the Indian fossil record that was found in Nebraska many years ago. And the local tribes are trying to claim it, saying, these are our ancestors that you have in your museum. May we have them back, please, so we can bury them as we wish. And for a long time, these state historical societies, especially in the Midwest, would say, no, this is part of our research. We are the university. These remains belong to us. These costumes, these outfits, these war materials don't belong to you. They belong to the people of this great state of Nebraska. And now a negotiation is sometimes the tribe is loaning them to the museum, and the museum agrees to give them back after a certain amount of time. Sometimes if they are human remains, they're saying, look, we want the bones back, please. And now they're giving the bones back. And it reminds me of this researcher in Nebraska who claims to be a savior of the Nebraska Historical Society, who also happens to live, according to him, on Native American land that he owns, and he's lived there for 60 years, okay? So he's aware that the land that he lives on, that he bought as a white man, doesn't really belong to him, it belongs to the local Indian tribe. And he has decided that when he dies, and when his wife dies, that his farm will be returned to the local Indian tribe. And he went to the newspaper, got all this credit for it. Isn't he a wonderful guy that he donates his land back to the people from which it was stolen? What a great guy. And of course, the local Indian community, who've been trampled on for a century, say, oh gosh, oh thank you, my white master, for giving us back our land. And I say, as an outsider, but a person of thought, wants to say, and I have said, to this big fat white man. Hey! If you think a wrong has been committed and you are trying to right that wrong, why are you delaying justice? Why don't you give the land back right now? Why didn't you give the land back when your brain realized that you were living on stolen property, even though you owned the deed? Why are you trying to take credit for it now in your old age, that you're doing this miraculous thing that you should have done 30 years ago? Where is the credit for doing the right thing that you're not doing? You're delaying the justice of the return to the land of the people because you're not dead yet. You're not enjoying the fruits of the land that you admit was stolen. How does that make you a hero? How does that make you a martyr? How does that make you someone to be adored and admired? And it doesn't. It makes you a hypocrite. And on that lovely note, it's time for our final blood pressure break. I'll be back in a moment. We are back from break. Thank you for being here. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. Closed captions on the live stream. It's wonderful to have you here with us. We are here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Jana Marie, my lovely wife, is here on Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. doing a hardcore ASL session, all in sign language, but totally inclusive. If you want to stop by and say hi, ask her a question about disability or deafness or learning sign language or any other issue that is popping into your mind. You can also email her at jana@boles.tv, and you can email me too, david@boles.tv. So we're having a wonderful conversation today about all these various topics, and this one hits home in a hard way that's disappointing, but worth talking about. 16 big fat universities, including Yale and my beloved Columbia, are being sued for antitrust violations because of the way they determine financial aid awards. The universities engaged in price fixing and unfairly limited aid by using a shared methodology to calculate applicants' financial need. Schools are allowed under federal law to collaborate on their formulas, but only if they don't consider applicants' financial need in admission decisions. And what they want to know is, can these students pay, or are we going to have to pay them? Amherst College in October said it would stop giving an edge to applicants whose parents attended the school, placing it among the first elite schools to ditch legacy preferences. Now that's going to be very dangerous for many of these Ivy League schools, because that's how these rich people get their kids in. And their kids may be wonderful or not, but as long as they're contributing to the university and they are a legacy, they get a foot in. So to turn that off is to risk losing a lot of money. And all of that is in part because the pandemic made it difficult for students to take the ACT and the SAT. Thousands of colleges shifted to a test optional policy for recent and current applicants. Hundreds of those schools have since extended the offer for at least a few more years. And to that I say hallelujah. I am not a traditional learner. I don't learn things that the ACT and the SAT tests you on. So I take those tests and I come across as very stupid and very dumb. And I think, well, I have a different sort of intelligence. I don't really see things the same way. That's why I'm not good at math, because I can find different solutions to one problem, which I'm told is not the way math is done. And I accept that. In 1991, all 8 members of the Ivy League at MIT were charged with price fixing. That includes Columbia. Prosecutors said representatives from the schools would meet to discuss their anticipated aid offers for students who had been admitted to more than one school. That practice unfairly limited price competition, prosecutors said. Schools said the approach eliminated bidding wars and allowed students to choose schools based on fit rather than price. So what that means is they all said, okay, well, we'll all offer this one student the same package. Okay, we agree. Super smart, did well on the ACT, did well on the SAT. And Columbia, don't offer that student $20,000 more than we, because then they'll go to Columbia. Let's just all offer the same amount and then let the kid pick which school they want. So instead of a school saying, ooh, that student really would help us a lot, let's really go after that student and pay them a lot more money in financial aid so they'll come here, they all colluded and got together and said, no. Great student, we all want that student, let's just even the playing field and not make any difference. You can't do that. That's called price fixing. And now we go into a very interesting topic about why people deceive themselves. Why do people lie in order to get through the world? And it's a very interesting and disturbing conclusion. I do deceive myself daily. I understand that. I think I'm good at math. But if you look at my ACT and my SAT scores from way back, you'll say, this guy doesn't know anything. I am actively deceiving myself every moment of every day. All people deceive themselves, and quite frequently at that. For instance, if a father is convinced that his son is a good student, and then the son brings home bad grades, he may say at first that the subject isn't that important, or that the teacher didn't explain the material well. And boy, I tell you, that happens every single day, especially in public schools, where parents have disavowed having any responsibility for their children whatsoever. And so who raises and who values the student? The teachers. And sex education and money and budgeting and common sense are no longer in the home, actively, usually, stereotypically. They are placed in the classroom. So if a student isn't doing well in class, the parents come and speak to the teacher and say, well, it's your fault. You're not teaching my student well. If my kid did better, he would do better because of you, if you were doing your job. But because my kid, my daughter, my son, is failing your class, that's your failure as the teacher because you're not finding how to meet the needs of my son or daughter. I have nothing to do with it. I have no responsibility as the parent. It's totally on you as the teacher. Researchers call this strategy of self-deception the reorganization of beliefs. In their article, they describe 3 more frequently used strategies that come into play even earlier in order to prevent unpleasant facts from getting to you in the first place. That includes selecting facts that are purposeful action. People avoid places or people that might bring problematic facts to their attention, such as the parent-teacher conference. Another strategy is to reject facts by casting doubt on the credibility of the source, and we see this going on every single day when we talk about COVID. As long as the father hears about his son's academic problems, only indirectly, and does not actually see the grades, the father can ignore the problem. The last strategy is what Newman and Marshy call generating facts from an ambiguous state of affairs. For instance, if the kind mathematics teacher gently suggests that the son is not coping, and the father would have expected a clear statement in case of difficulties, he may interpret the considerable kindness and the gentle description as a positive assessment of his son's abilities. The researchers describe all 4 strategies as typical psychological thinking tendencies. Self-deception is neither unreasonable nor detrimental to people in the short term, but always in the medium and long term. These are not malicious ways of doing things, but part of the basic cognitive equipment of humans to preserve their established view of themselves and their place in the world. In normal times with few changes, the tendency to stick to proven views is helpful and also deeply rooted in evolution. However, this cognitive tendency is catastrophic in times of radically new challenges that require rapid changes in behavior. Here we go with COVID. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. The doctors don't know. Who's this Fauci guy? If people in the early stages of a pandemic are skeptical about whether a vaccine will still show unexpected side effects, that's an understandable caution that people can initially compensate for by strictly adhering to precautionary rules. Self-deception can also help avoid panic reactions. However, if it becomes clear in the medium term that the side effects of the vaccine are clearly limited, then doubt is unreasonable and turns into a direct danger to oneself and others. Self-deception also entails distorted risk assessments because the health risk of foregoing vaccination is much greater than that resulting from vaccination. Self-deception can therefore stabilize the self-image, establish ways of thinking and motivation to act in normal times. But it becomes detrimental in times of crisis that require radical rethinking, new ways of acting, and puts society at risk. So it's all about ego and perception. Try to park it at the door if you can, because the world depends upon you and your psychic way of understanding how things operate. We live in trying times. And speaking of trying times, there's a wonderful article in The Guardian that I'm just going to share with you now. It's so beautifully written and extremely convincing. And it's about the impending civil war we have happening right here, right now in America. It's been going on for at least 2 years. And there isn't bloodshed yet. On the eve of the first Civil War, the most intelligent, the most informed, the most dedicated people in the United States could not see it coming. Even when Confederate soldiers began their bombardment of Fort Sumter, nobody believed the conflict was inevitable. The North was so unprepared for the war that they had no weapons. In Washington in the winter of 1861, Henry Adams, the grandson of John Quincy Adams, declared that not one man in America wanted the Civil War or expected it or intended it. South Carolina Senator James Chestnut, who did more than most to bring on the advent of the catastrophe, promised to drink all the blood spilled in the entire conflict. The common wisdom at the time was that he would have to drink not a thimble. And this is the warning. What the American left, liberals, Democrats, need now is allegiance, not allyship. It must abandon any imagined fantasies about the sanctity of governmental institutions that long ago gave up any claim to legitimacy. Stack the Supreme Court, end the filibuster, make Washington, D.C. a state. Let the dogs howl. And now, before it's too late, the movement of the right, the GOP, takes control of institutions. The moment that happens, they will use them to overthrow democracy in its most basic forms. They are already rushing to dissolve whatever norms stand in the way of their full empowerment. And all of that is true, and all of it is happening right now. And Joe Biden doesn't seem to care, and the Democrats don't seem to be aware of it. It's absolutely shocking. As a middle-of-the-road outsider, the right has recognized what the left has not, that the system is in collapse. The right has a plan. It involves violence and solidarity. They have not abjured even the oath keepers. The left, meanwhile, has chosen infighting as their sport. Very true. The right stay together. They want everybody in their gang. And the left, all they're about is accusing people. You're woke, you're not woke. You're on the team, you're not on the team. I like you, I don't like you. It's ridiculous. There will be those who say that warnings of a new civil war is alarmist. All this writer can say is that reality has outpaced even the most alarmist predictions. Imagine going back just 10 years and explaining that a Republican president would openly support the dictatorship of North Korea. No conspiracy theorist would have dared to dream it. Anyone who foresaw dimly. The trends were apparent. Their ends were not. It would be entirely possible for the United States to implement a modern electoral system, to restore the legitimacy of the courts, to reform its police forces, to root out domestic terrorism, to alter its tax code to address inequality, to prepare its cities and its agriculture for the effects of climate change, to regulate and to control the mechanisms of violence. All of these futures are possible. There is one hope, however, that must be rejected outright. The hope that everything will work it out by itself. That America will bumble along into better times. It won't. Americans have believed their country is an exception, a necessary nation. If history has shown us anything, it's that the world doesn't have any necessary nations. And that's just a little bit of this article, titled, "The Next U.S. Civil War is Already Here, We Just Refuse to See It." I'll put the link in chat. And I urge you to read it. It's a alarming, well-researched, beautifully written article that will, I hope, change you. And so there we are. The world is in our hands. We can self-deceive ourselves. We can use DNA antenna to find out what's wrong with us. But as long as we live in the metaverse, where we have our Gucci pants and we have our NFTs, what do we care? Let the world pass me by. Let the world be taken over by tyrants. Just as long as I can play my games in the metaverse and close my eyes and dream at night. Dream of a better world. Not a world that I have. Not a world that I want. But a world that used to be. And democracy has always been difficult. It's always been a fight. Because you always have other people who want to control you and control what other people do. And that is the rise of authoritarianism, not just in the USA, but the world over. And we now, unfortunately, have a very distinct template of how to make authoritarianism rise in America. The Supreme Court is packed. The states are now under the control of the GOP. The charismatic leader has triumphed and conquered and fallen, but is always ready to be resurrected. And even the Ivy League is now being charged and caught in their own decisive mess of trying to get the best students at the cheapest price. Oh, we won't compete with you. We'll just all lowball the student and see what happens. Well, it's been a wonderful show. We've met new friends. We're going new places. And we're doing it all again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. I hope to see you here. You can find me on Twitter at David Boles, on Facebook, Boles, on Instagram, Boles Books, TikTok, Boles TV, Discord, David Boles, name of the server. Or you can just show up here and chat and ask me some questions, have a nice conversation, or email me, David@Boles TV. So until I see you again tomorrow, have a wonderful day, take care wherever you are, and may you dream real dreams, and may everything you wish come true bright and joyous and streaming and alive. Take care.